What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Procreate tutorial where today I'm going to show you how you can create this landscape design using a Triadic Harmonious palette. So as always, you can grab all of the requirements from my link in the description down below, which will take you to my Patreon where all of the requirements are completely free. You can grab the canvas size, you can go ahead and grab the palette, and that's pretty much everything you're going to need for today's design. So if you like today's tutorial, make sure to drop a like on it. Let me know in the comments down below if you've ever used the Triadic option before. And when you're done with today's design, make sure to tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to share them. And if you want even more tutorials from me, did you know I actually post 3 more every single month to my Patreon supporters? And the catalogue's well over 100 at the time of recording. So make sure to check that out using the link in the description down below. Enjoy today's tutorial and let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, we've got a nice blank one to start with. We're going to go up to our actions. We're going to go to the canvas tab and we're going to turn on a drawing guide. And of course, we'll edit that drawing guide as I normally do by changing the grid size down here to 1/4 of whatever your canvas size is. So 500 for me. And then hit done. That gives you a guide now to lay things out according to mine as well. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to our layers. We're going to go to our background color. And we're going to change it to the color in the far right of the palette and then hit done. And then on this empty layer, we want to go to our colors and we want to go to the disk and double tap in the top left to select white. We then want to go to our brush. I'm going to use calligraphy and the monoline brush. I'm going to draw out a circle. So I'm going to draw out a circle, hold my pen at the end point, and then pop one finger on the screen to turn it into a nice perfect circle. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than I need it for a moment. And then I'm going to go ahead and tap on my cursor. So tapping on my cursor, I can then tap on the node, say in the top right, and I can change the size of the circle by actually punching in a certain dimension. So 1410. And then I'm going to drag that into the center. Now, one thing you want to do is make sure you get to snapping and turn on snapping. And you'll be able to drag this circle into the middle. Of course, you've got the grid. And once you hit those orange lines in the middle, both vertically and horizontally, you're smack bang in the center. Then we can drag white to the outer edge, and now we've created a frame. So this sits now at the very top and we'll just hide everything underneath it. So we can create a new layer and drag it underneath our frame. I'm going to go to my colors and I'm going to grab the top of the second column. It's basically the first color in the palette. We'll go to our brush. We're going to go to calligraphy and the monoline brush. And if I tap on the monoline brush and go to stabilization, you can see that my streamline is nice and high, which basically it gets rid of all of the bumps and lumps and tremors in your strokes on the screen. And my stabilization is also fairly high as well. I want to have some quite smooth shapes in here really. The brush size is set to 9%. Of course, we're maxed out on opacity. And we're going to start drawing in some shapes. Now, you want to go ahead and take a look at my screen, of course, just to see where I'm laying things out. But use the grid as well that I've got in play so that you can also lay things out. So I'm going to go all the way around to the starting point. And then I'm going to drag and drop the color in. And on the same layer, we're going to introduce another set of hills as well. So that one's going to somewhat start, say here, I've added in too many little lumps there. And I'm going to come up this side. I'm going to just create some interesting hill and then go round to my starting point, drag and drop the color in. Make sure I've got no little gaps. And then I'm also going to introduce another one over here. And then this one's just going to be a fairly small one really. And then go all the way around to my starting point and then drag and drop the color in. And then while we are here, we're going to go to our brush. We're going to switch our brush then to the option of drawing and the evolve brush. We're going to set the opacity to 100%. The size is set to about 11. And we're just going to add in some tree-like shapes here using the evolve brush. So you can press really light. You can even make the brush size a little bit smaller if you want to, say 9%, something around there. But tap a few times to get some nice sort of little sort of specks almost of detail and sort of tree-like shapes. And just add in some interesting trees in there. I've gone down to 6% now, so I can be a little bit more precise with my application of the trees. And right at the front here, you can have some fun detailing it, really making it look quite nice and tidy. And then as we get further back, we'll kind of lose that. You could add a little bit on here as well if you wanted to, some tree-like shapes on this piece of land down here. Totally up to you. And then the one on the left as well. We'll do the same. I'm going to go up to about that 10% again. Just circular motions, really light pressure will give you some really speckly kind of pieces of art there. And if you press quite firm, you'll get some big blobs. So you can really add some tree-like effects there quite easily. We're then going to create a new layer and drag it underneath. And then we'll go to our colors and make our way across. So now we're at the top of the third column. brush back to calligraphy and the monoline brush. I'm going to add in another piece of land. Now this one's going to be over here on the left hand side. So I want to go ahead and sort of come in from here and then make my way along into around about, say, here. Bit of a flat point on the end, which I'll fix in a minute. And then I'm going to go ahead and just make my way a little bit higher and go all the way around to my starting point so I can drag and drop the color in. And then we want to make sure we're getting an S shape here with our water. So the end of the land there is a little bit too pointy. I'm going to tap on my eraser and make sure it's calligraphy in the monoline brush. I'll set the size down to about 26%. And I'll just go ahead and just kind of trim off the end there, rounding that off a little nicer. And again, we'll go back to our brush. We'll tap on it. We'll go to the option of drawing and evolve. And again, add in some lovely tree-like shapes, because all of our trees are what we're going to detail later on. So I'm going to wiggle my pen along here. You're just going for the general silhouette at this point. You can keep it really simple, to be honest. A little something like that will just do enough and give you enough detail in here. Lovely. And then once we've done that piece of land, we'll move back again. So we'll create another new layer, drag it underneath. We'll go to our colors and grab the third color in our palette of colors. We're going to go to our brush and go back to calligraphy in the monoline. And we'll introduce another piece of land. And you always want to try and make sure you get an S shape going on. It's something that's really pleasing to the eye. So we're going to try our best to create exactly that. And I'm going to come up here and then I'm going to come down. I'm going to go through here, trying to link up to the end point there of my land. Again, trying to create my S shape. I could always go ahead and grab my eraser and then just maybe chip away at that slightly if I wanted to, just to increase the S. And also let the water of our river just kind of disappear in behind the land. And then we'll go to our brush, we'll tap on it, we'll change it back to drawing and evolve. And again, add in some like tree-like shapes. Now, of course, as things start to get further back, we want to think about slowly, maybe sort of making this a little bit more simple and maybe even making the brush size smaller. So these ones at the front had some quite nice purposeful trees. As we start to make our way further back now, we want to try and just make that a bit more simple. Let's then go to our layers, create a new layer, drag it underneath. We'll go to our colors and grab then the fourth color on that top row of colors. So fourth color here, fifth column, top of. We'll go to our brush and go back to calligraphy, monoline brush again. And again, we're looking for that S shape. So we want to somewhat start here if we can, and then just go towards that midpoint of our design, a bit of a flat, and then maybe even it raises right up. You can create whatever landscape you want. Now I'm going to go all the way through that shape to my starting point and drag and drop the color in. And this S shape, it leads the eye to the back. I've gone to my brush. I'm going to go back to drawing and evolve. And now I'm going to set the brush size to 6% because I'll need these details now to start getting a little bit smaller if possible. You know, you can leave big areas, you know, maybe you add some down here at this sort of plane down here towards the water's edge. And then maybe you add some more towards the top. So you have like a bit of a cliff edge here. But you don't have to. It's totally up to you what you want to try and achieve with it. And then maybe right up at the top here, we add in a couple more little sort of specks up there. Lovely. Let's then go to our layers, create a new layer, drag it underneath. We're going to go to our colors. And if we go to our colors, we were working with this color here. So we need to move across to this one here, top of the sixth column. It's the fifth color in the palette of colors. We're going to go to our brush. We're going to go to calligraphy again. And now our river to an extent is going to come to an end. So we're going to come from behind here. We're drawing as we speak, and we're just going to allow the river now just to fall in behind there. You can go up a little bit and then make your way through here, creating a landscape up towards the top and then round and somewhere through towards your start point, or even this point, which you can see, and drag and drop your color in. Now, of course, I might not have made a perfect loop there. So what I can do is I can hold down on the tick here just to see that layer, and I can see where did I make a gap, a big gap over here. And I can drag and drop the color in. I can go back to my layer, hold down the tick again, and it brings everything back into play. And there we go. Our river now nicely disappears in behind. And again, you may want to tweak this. You may want to grab your eraser and just kind of show how it just definitely falls in behind there. You could even grab your brush again and just sort of bring the land down a tiny bit to create a bit more of a curve in there. A little something like that. Not perfect curve. We don't want to make the river look like it's, you know, really smooth. And then we'll go back to our brush. We'll go back to the option of drawing and we'll use the evolve. And this will be the last time we use the evolve. We're just going to very quickly try and run down it. You see how I'm really far into the shape? Because I don't want to add anything too big like up here, like a tree. I want to just add the illusion of some really small trees in the distance. So let's go to our layers. Let's create a new layer, drag it underneath. We're going to go to our colors. What were we working with? We were working with this color here, weren't we? So let's move to this one here, just to the right of it, fourth color from the right. Go back to your brush and calligraphy and the monoline brush. And as I mentioned, we can just stick with the monoline now. And we're going to go ahead and bring in a piece of land. It's going to start up here. You can add in lots of wobbly and wobble like tremors in here. Wobbles and tremors, I was going to say. In behind that, then go all the way through this shape. I'm still drawing. I'm going all the way around to my starting point up there and dragging and dropping the color. This is why we use the grid system, because now you can see where I enter a square and I leave a square and so on. Let's then go to our layers. Let's create a new layer, drag it underneath. We're going to go to our colors. Now we were working with this color here. So let's move to this one. It's the third color from the right. And we're going to add in another hillside in behind. So we're going to somewhat sort of come in from here. We can add in lots of wiggles and tremors. You can literally just bounce your pen up and down and you can add in some interesting sort of landscape in there. I'm drawing as we speak still all the way around to my starting point. I'm dragging and dropping the color in. You can always get in there and fix it if you want to or change it. And then we've got one more to create, so we'll create a new layer, drag it underneath again. We'll go to our colors and we'll grab this color here, second from last on that top row of colors. And we'll add in one that sort of comes in from up here. Again, you want to maybe sort of wiggle your pen up and down so you can create some interesting kind of landscape. And then maybe this one has a bit more of a sharper point on this side up here and then comes back out again. I'm drawing again all the way around to my starting point and dragging and dropping the color in. At this point, I can take a look at my landscape though and just see if it needs anything else just to kind of make it look a bit more symmetrical potentially back there. Add in some additional little bumps and lumps maybe just to finally just touch it up. Let's take a look at that. That looks pretty good to me. We've got a nice open bit of sky as well. Now, one thing that doesn't get spoken about enough in Procreate is the Harmony tab here in your palette. If I grab a color here, the first color in that palette, I tap on Harmony. If we go ahead and go up towards here, you can see if we tap on Triadic, we actually get multiple different options here for harmonious colors to the color you've currently got selected. Now we're going to be using Triadic today, and maybe I'll go into more detail on the other ones in a different video. But Triadic will match the brightness and saturation of the color you've got selected and give you its two partnering colors. So you get this triangle across the disk spectrum. So if I, for example, switch it to the color here, you can see how the brightness is now changed and the colors are a little bit brighter. They're in different positions. So again, it matches the brightness and it matches the saturation. Now what you can do with this is you can obviously get two additional colors to join you in your design. So for example, let's go to our layers and let's go to this layer here. We're going to go ahead and tap on it and we're going to alpha lock it so we can't paint outside of it. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to make sure we are using the first out of all of those greens, and again go back to the Harmony tab, Triadic, and we're going to grab the yellow tone. It's just slightly yellow, top right. You can tap on it to select it. If I then go to my brush and I go to the option of airbrushing and soft brush, I'm going to set the brush to around about, let's go down to about say 6%. And I'm going to go ahead and use it in this area here, which matches the same color, as a little bit of a highlight on the top edge of some of these areas that we created. So a little bit of yellow. Don't go too low with it. We've got another color, of course, to introduce. And then go to your colors and grab the purpley pink tone at the bottom by tapping on it, and then use that as your shadow tone. So this particular design is going to have quite a cool spectrum between the yellows and the purples of this design, almost an iridescent style palette to it. And then what we'll do is we'll also go ahead and, while we're here, we'll go to our colors and we will grab the yellow again, the top color. We'll go to our layers and we'll create a new layer. We're going to tap on it and we're going to clipping mask it. And we're going to change the blend mode from normal to the option of add. If we change our brush and go back to the option of drawing, and we'll use the evolve brush, let's set the opacity down to say 30% and a brush size of around about 6%. We can use this now to create some lovely highlight on here. In fact, I'll make the brush size a bit bigger. I'll go up to 10%. And just on the top of some of your trees, you can go over the top of them. And don't forget, because it's set to 30%, you can go back over a couple of times and add in multiple layers and tones of color in here, and you can add some in some of the trees by tapping just a few little taps along the edge of your design and along the very edge as well of your tree, just to show that the light coming across. Do the same up here too, along this piece of land, one coat to start with, and then go back over a couple of more taps. If you zoom right in, you can see the difference in the pixels, because some of these are set to 30% and the others that we keep layering on top are brightening it up by an additional 30% every single time. So you can use this to really sort of take your time but build up color. And then over here too, right side of this edge over here, because the sun's going to be right in the middle, so I've gone up and down it. I'm going to then go along the edge of it a little bit more, tapping away where I think I can add in some really cool levels of detail in here. It's a little bit closer towards us, of course, so we can add in a little bit more detail by tapping just to add in these like just nicely colored hillside up here and really emphasize the edge of it. And you can maybe introduce like a couple more dashes inside the actual body of some of these shapes. The one at the front here though, I'm going to imagine is so close to us that we can only see the edge highlight. So let's go ahead and repeat that exact same philosophy for all of the different layers going backwards. So let's go to the next layer down, which is that one there. If you need to, and it's a bit more easier to find the correct color, you can even hold down and grab the color. Otherwise it's the second green in the palette. So if we then go ahead and go back to our layer, we'll tap on it, we will alpha lock it. You can go to your colors as I mentioned and grab the second color out of all of the greens. Make sure you're on the Harmony tab and make sure that, of course, you're Triadic. You grab the yellow to start with. We then go to our brush and go back to airbrushing and the soft airbrush. And again, a nice light coat of highlight along the edge here. So a little bit of yellow, bringing it down into some of the gaps if you think that the lighting would stretch down into there. And then maybe a little bit back here, nothing too much, but more of the yellow kind of breaking its way down and into that kind of gap there. And then I'm going to go to my colors. I'll grab the pinky purpley tone, the opposite color, and then I'll add that towards the bottom, wiggling my pen along the bottom edge, a little bit of shadow in behind there too. You can even add a bit of shadow up behind there, but try and leave the green in between. We want to have that blend. And then as we did previously, we'll create a new layer, we'll tap on it and clipping mask it. We'll tap on it and change its blend mode to the option of add. We'll bring the opacity down though, we'll bring it straight down to around about 85%. And we want to go back to our color and grab the yellow tone top right. Then go back to your brush. Let's go to, again, the option of drawing and evolve. And we'll just repeat. We'll just add in those lovely bright tones along the edge. Try and leave certain areas with a few gaps. For example, the sun's going to be here. So I could leave the left-hand side of this tree a little bit darker. And then that would just give me some interesting lighting to it. So I can come along here. I can definitely brighten up this edge here and maybe a little bit into the body of the land. And then a little bit more along that top edge. And again, don't forget you're at 30%, so you can always brighten up the very edge a little bit more, a couple more specks. Now, our highlights are slowly, in terms of this level of detail, going to start to fall off the further they get back, as they should do anyway. So just bear in mind that you want to kind of slowly start to take the detail down a little bit as you make your way further back. So a couple of specks on these areas of land. Keep it simple. You can tap really lightly and you get the really light amount of grain in there. If you press really firm, you'll end up with a really chunky bit of sort of color. So keep it nice and light where you think you can. Lovely. And let's move on from there. Let's go ahead and go back. So we go back a layer. We go ahead and we turn it on and off just to be sure. And it's that one there on the right hand side. We go ahead and tap on it and alpha lock it. We go to our colors. It's of course 1, 2, 3 layers back. So we grab the third color here in the color of greens. We grab the yellow from the Triadic. We then go to our brush library and go to airbrushing in the soft brush. And again, we add in a lovely bit of yellow along that top edge where we think that the light is going to come through onto our landscape. A little bit more towards the sort of bottom by the river will look nice. Lovely. And then we'll go to our colors and we'll grab the purple and we'll add that in our shadowy tones. So it's more towards the bottom. Nice blend out. We're trying to practice gradients as well in this at the same time. A little bit of purple towards the edge of your frame and a little bit towards the water. And then go ahead and create a new layer. Tap on it, clipping mask it. Go to the layer. Let's bring its blend mode to add, but also bring the opacity down. I'm going to bring it down to 75% this time. I'm going to go back to my colors and grab the Triadic color opposite, so the yellow tone for our highlights, and then go back to our brush. we're going to go into drawing and the evolve. And again, add in those really lovely bright tones along the edge. You can keep the opacity a little bit higher if you think that it will look really nice on your design. You don't have to drop it all the way down. I'm just going to go ahead and add in a little bit more towards the edge, a couple of specks inside the body, maybe it's a tree sticking its head up a tiny bit, catching some light. But again, we want all of those details to somewhat slowly start to fall away. But it's the edge that's quite important, because if you can make the edge a little bit brighter, it will hopefully help it stand off from the layer in behind. So a couple of light little specks in here, a couple of really nice light taps. And maybe we can bring a hillside down a tiny bit. Let's then go to our layers. Let's go back. We've got this one here on the left hand side. You can turn it on and off just to be sure. You can tap on it and you can alpha lock it. You can go to your colors. It is the 1, 2, 3, fourth color back. So fourth color here. We grab the yellow to start with, top of the triadic triangle there, and your brush wants to be airbrushing in the soft brush. About 8% on the brush size. Brush size doesn't need to change really too much. And then this hillside over here, get blanket of lighting. The sort of in behind those hills won't get too much. And then go to your colors and grab the purple to the bottom. And again, wiggle that in behind, in some of your shaded areas, down towards your water's edge. Just a really kind of pretty design really today, with the sort of the colors all complementing each other to a degree. And then we'll go back to our layers. We'll create a new layer and tap on it, clipping mask it, blend mode, add. Let's go ahead and drop it down though this time to, let's drop it down to about sort of 65%. We want to go to our color and grab the yellow version. And then we want to go to our brush, drawing and evolve. And again, let's triple check, add layer is set. Let's go along that edge, a little bit of lighting there from the sun. And of course we've got the sky to do and introduce the sun shortly. But you can add in some lovely highlight up here. Again, make sure you add in some along that edge more so, just to show the brightest spot and also help separate it from the layer what will be in behind. A couple of dashes along there. You can even go right along the edge if you want to, just to add in a few pixels worth of color, again to brighten it up. Let's then go to our layers. Let's go down a layer. Let's go ahead then and tap on it. We will alpha lock it. It is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's the fifth layer back. So we're going to go ahead and grab then the fifth color in the palette. So this one here. We're going to go ahead and grab the yellow tone. We'll go to our brush. We'll go to airbrushing and the soft brush. And I'm just going to make sure that's a bit smaller, about 6%, and wiggle it along this edge here, along here, wiggling it through, making sure I hit some of the gaps. Maybe leave it a little bit darker, maybe in the area towards the bottom, and then grab the purple tone. And we wiggle it along here. So the Harmony tab has so many options in there. I will probably cover them in future videos. But we're starting off with the Triadic in here because the colors just look great when I was practicing this. So I hope you're enjoying it. Let's then go ahead and go to our colors again. Let's grab the yellow tone. We'll then go to our layers. We'll create a new layer. We'll tap on it and we will clipping mask it. This is the last layer that we add with the add layer. So we tap on it, change it to add, and we'll bring the opacity down to about sort of, let's go down to 55%. And again, brush, we'll go back to the option of drawing and evolve. And we're just going to go ahead and wiggle our pen along that horizon, keeping it fairly simple because it's quite far back. And then maybe one more coat through. That's it. We just want to just touch up the edge there. Let's then go to our layers. We're going to go down a layer. We're going to tap on it and alpha lock it. Again, we don't need to add the add layer to this. So we're going to go to our colors. It's the third color of greens from the end. So it's this color here. We grab the yellow tone, brush. We need to go back to airbrushing and the soft brush. Let's triple check our layer is alpha locked, which it is. And so I'm going to wiggle my pen along here, just introducing some yellow tone, nice gradient of color, and then grab the purple tone. And again, in behind there, darkening it up. Now, to an extent, the color palette doesn't really work for the concepts of shadows, because you'd want them to be a little bit darker and probably a little bit closer towards the actual subject, but they're quite complementary to each other. So I thought, again, the design looked pretty cool. Let's go down to the next layer, tap on it and alpha lock it. Let's go to the color, which is the second green from the end. We grab its yellow version and same brush. we can just go ahead and wiggle it along that top edge. So this mountain I've got in the middle might be getting in the way a little bit, so I can add some right towards the top edge and then a little bit more towards the bottom, like so. Lovely. And then we'll go to our purple variation and add some in behind here. Lovely. Let's wiggle that along there. Nice little bit of color. And then we'll go to our final layer. So we're going to go down to that layer. We're going to tap on it, alpha lock it. We'll go to our colors. We'll grab the color for it. We'll grab the yellow version to start with. We'll add in a lovely bit of yellow glow on the side of this mountain here. Another little bit on the top edge along here. And then we'll go to our purple. And I'll make the brush size a little bit bigger because it's a fairly large area. I'm just going to introduce a little wiggle of purple over here towards the edges mainly, just to kind of frame it a bit more. And we've done all of our layers going back. Let's go ahead and finally sort of wrap up the sky. So we'll create a new layer and drag it all the way to the back. Now this layer is also going to act as the color for the water as well. So we're going to go to the colors and grab the yellow tone on the far right. We're going to grab the green. And with the green selected, so we've grabbed yellow. So obviously we're here to start with. We're going to grab the green tone here. And we're going to add that just in behind our horizon there. So don't make your brush too big, but about 10% will just about be enough. Bit of a curve to your line and just kind of blend up the green a little bit. And then likewise, towards the bottom in your water, just kind of blend in a bit of green in the distance and fade that down. Then go to your colors and grab then the purple variation up here. So at the bottom of the disc, and again, a little bit of purple towards the bottom here, creating a gradient of these colors in your water. Nice purple bottom to the design, but also a nice purple curve to the very top edge as well. You can press quite firm and then blend it together if you can. And then go to your layer. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to change the blend mode from normal to the option of add. We're going to go to our colors and grab the actual far right color in the palette. And then we'll set the brush size. Let's go to around about, say, 6 to 5%. And just here in the center of your design, you can just tap a few times and keep tapping until you end up with a lovely, nice round circle and a nice sun just shining down on all of your design. Now, optionally, you could also add in some shadows down here to the water as well. I'm going to completely leave it as it is. I quite like the look of it as it currently stands. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my drawing guide. I'm going to go ahead and tap away. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to go full screen with 4, and we end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this triadic themed design. If you found it quite helpful and interesting to work out how to use the Harmony tab. And again, let me know in the comments down below if you'd like me to cover the other options as well. As always, you can tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to share them, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere else. And make sure to subscribe to the channel for weekly Procreate tutorials. But if you want even more tutorials from me, well, I post 3 more every single month to my Patreon supporters, and the catalogue is well over 100 at the time of recording. With 3 added every single month, that catalogue continues to grow. Patrons not only get access to that exclusive catalogue, but they also get early access to YouTube tutorials. They get sneak peeks and much, much more. So check that out using the link in the description down below. And if you like this video here on YouTube, you'll probably like this one on the screen now. I've purposely selected it if you liked this video. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.